Even today, after several meetings, it is still a moving reunion. For Professor Haroldsson, a rare opportunity to witness what could be two lives intersecting.
This meeting is quite emotional. It's only about in a third of all cases in Sri Lanka that you are able to find a connection between what that child is saying and a previous family or a person who died that fits the description. This is very rare.
Professor Haroldsson is astounded by the change in character as soon as Dilukshi meets her previous family. She is less withdrawn and seems to fit in much more naturally with this family. Could she really be this little girl, reborn?
Shiromi was a very obedient girl who never left the house without informing us where she was going. She always left the house with her younger brother and her sister to swim or to play. And one day she just did not come back. I was so upset that Shiromi hadn't returned home that I ran about looking for her. When they found her in the water, I fainted upon hearing I'd lost my daughter.
When
Dilukshi was brought here, she was able to recognize us as her previous parents. She was also able to recognize her old belongings and the neighbors who lived nearby. All of this convinced me she was my child, reborn.
I know I am that little girl over there in that picture. When I saw my previous parents and previous brother and sister, I felt very happy. It felt like I was finally returning home after a very long time away.
At the end of the day, Dilukshi takes Professor Haroldsson for a walk to show him the sights of her previous life.
When we compare how well these statements fit the life of Shiromi, we find that about 12 of them, and we have around 20, about 12 of them fit really well and are fairly specific.
Dilukshi leads Professor Haroldsson to the rock, where she claimed she played as little Shiromi. It is a flat rock formation, just as she had described. The footbridge over the little river is also there. And this is the spot where Shiromi fell into the water.
When I come to this particular spot, I become very afraid. In general, I am not afraid of water. But when I come to this spot, I get very scared.
Dilukshi tells the scientist that she remembers black spots just before she died. Haroldsson thinks the water plants growing in the river might account for this.
I think there is something real there. She has some real images of these events, but I think these images, these thoughts were with her from a very early age and even continue to some extent up to the present day.
Dilukshi herself is convinced that she died here, in her previous life. For many who evaluate the evidence that Haroldsson and his colleagues have gathered, the answer is simple. If you believe in reincarnation, this research gives some scientific basis to this belief.
I think there is some likelihood of life after death, and I think that there might be something real in these memories, and that would then support the theory of reincarnation.
But despite how convincing Dilukshi's case may sound, not everybody agrees with these findings. One of the dissenters is Dr. Richard Wiseman of the University of Hertfordshire, near London. He has taken a long, hard look at the evidence that the reincarnation scientists have compiled.
The question is what's going on there? And I think part of the problem with assessing the situation is you simply don't know the role that chance could play.
In order to answer that question, Wiseman has devised a very simple experiment. He invited a random selection of children into his institute and asked them the same questions that researchers investigating claims of past lives would ask.
The experiment that I carried out was really to test the notion that if you took a child and simply had them make up a story, can you take that information, then go away and compare it to the details of children who unfortunately have actually died and find some kind of match, the type of match that the researchers who are involved in reincarnation claims actually find in their work.
More often than not, the children would easily engage Wiseman in a conversation about dying.
What my experiment aimed to do was to find out the role that chance plays in claims of reincarnation.
Dr. Wiseman videotaped his interviews with the children in order to have a record of their fantasies. After an initial period of shyness, the children opened up and played along with Wiseman's experiment.
One of the children I spoke to was Molly, and we asked her just to make up a story. She came up with the idea of another child called Katie, who was also 3. What colour hair would you have? Any colour hair at all?
Red.
You'd have red hair?
Red hair. Mm.
She had blue eyes. She was wearing a pink dress with flowers on it. She ran away. When Katie ran away, Molly?
What?
When Katie runs away, do good or bad things happen? Has anything bad ever happened to Katie? Bad? Oh, what's bad that's happened?
The monsters got Katie.
Oh, what were the monsters like?
Ugly.
They were ugly monsters. What happened?
No.
Don't know. What happened to Katie when the monsters got her?
Monsters bit her.
They bit her. So what happened to Katie?
Died.
She died. Oh. That was the story that Molly came up with. Now, what we wanted to know was, of course, if you took that story and you tried to match it against stories where genuine children, unfortunately, had actually died, could you find a match? And what we found was quite remarkable. We looked through the newspaper archives for stories, often very tragic stories, where children have been involved in accidents or have been abducted, been killed, and so on. One particular story matched the imaginary story that Molly had given us. The actual child was 3 years old. The actual child had red hair, blue eyes, a pink dress with flowers on it. The child lived very close to the seaside and enjoyed going to the beach. One day they ran away from the house, unfortunately were abducted and were killed. So out of the 17 facts that Molly gave us, 13 of them were absolutely correct. Now, if Molly was claiming to have lived before, this would be the reincarnation case of the decade.
Yes. This result even spooked Molly's mother, who knew for certain that her daughter had only made up the story.
I found that quite shocking. There was actually something really happened. Because I know even if there's no connection, you sort of instantly feel connected then to something because of, you know, what Molly made up. I instantly sort of felt connected or felt for the parents of that particular child.
The notion that we've lived